Hey everybody, it's Chris, and just today, it is April 16th, Wednesday. The D&D team has dropped some new errata that is pretty beefy. So I think it's going to have a significant impact on the game, so I figured I better cover it in a video. And a lot of this is stuff I've talked about already as well, so it will adjust some of my opinions on things that I've already talked about. And I should mention as well that if you hadn't heard, Jeremy Crawford is apparently leaving Wizards of the Coast. I think the news dropped last week, and we were told that he was leaving later in the month. So this might be his last hurrah, this errata here. So what I want to do is kind of go through it. Some of it's really minor. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. And some of the stuff is pretty major, and I'll spend more time on that. April 16th, 2025. So, for those who are unaware, errata is simply when they change the rules. It can often be mistakes they've made in terms of printing. Maybe they made spelling errors or math errors, or there were typos. But it can also be actual rebalancing, and we do see some of that in this errata. And errata has been released for all 3 of the core books. So we're going to start with the Player's Handbook. And all this information is available on D&D Beyond right now. So we begin with character origins, Goliath traits. It says, in the powerful build trait, you have advantage on any saving throw is now you have advantage on any ability check. So Goliaths have the powerful trait feature, and this allows them to get advantage when trying to escape a grapple. But there was a mistake before that it said they had advantage on any saving throw to escape a grapple, but escaping a grapple isn't a saving throw. So technically, if you wanted to be really hard and fast with the rules, it did nothing. I think most of us knew it was supposed to be ability checks, and they've now corrected that. So that's just an error they made that has been corrected. Then we're going to move to feats, and 3 feats have been changed. The first is the grappler feat. Again, this is just a correction. So we know that with the grappler feat, if you grapple an enemy, you can move with them and your speed is unaffected, which means that you can move at full speed while grappling somebody. Used to say your speed isn't halved when you move. Now it says you don't have to spend extra movement to move, because the grapple rules say that for every 5 feet of movement, you need to expend an additional 5 feet. So again, we knew what they meant, but this is more precise. Poisoner in the Brew Poison's Benefit 4 sentence, until you hit with the poisoned item is now until you deal damage with the poisoned item. And I'm not sure what this fix is. Usually once you hit with the poisoned item, you're going to deal damage with it, but there it is. There must be a reason why they made that change, and I'm not sure what it would be. I don't think most of us will notice a difference there. And then the telekinetic feat. In the minor telekinesis benefits second sentence, its range increases by 30 feet is now its range and the distance it can be away from you both increase by 30 feet. This is for the Mage Hand spell. So the telekinetic feat gives you the Mage Hand spell, the cantrip. And in the text, it says that the hand disappears if it's ever more than 30 feet away from you. And then the telekinetic feat said it doubled the range, but it didn't double the distance it could be from you, which, again, I think we knew how it was supposed to work, but this corrects an obvious error there. Then under equipment, the armor table, the subheading for the shield category shield is now shield, utilize action to don or doff. And yeah, when I first got my copy of the Player's Handbook, that wasn't there about the utilize action to don or doff. They did this one a while ago on D&D Beyond, but basically donning or doffing a shield is now the utilize action. I guess it was always supposed to be, and when I originally got my Player's Handbook and that was blank, I figured it must be an interaction now, but that wasn't the case. And then we get into the big stuff. So spells. And some of this, again, is just clarifying things. Some fixes obvious errors, and some of it is rebalancing, and fairly significant rebalancing. So we're going to start with one that is, I think, a clarification. So animal shapes, the spell's last paragraph has been replaced with the following. The target gains a number of temporary hit points equal to the hit points of the first form into which shape shifts. These temporary hit points vanish, if any remain when the spell ends. The transformation lasts for the duration or until the target ends it as a bonus action. So I'm going to bring up the old version before Errata. So here is the spell, Animal Shapes. It's a level 8 spell for druids. And it says, choose any number of willing creatures that you can see within range. Each target shapeshifts into a larger, smaller beast of your choice that has a challenge rating of 4 or lower. You can choose a different form for each target. On later turns, you can take a magic action to transform the targets again. A target's game statistics are replaced by the chosen beast statistics, but it retains its creature type, hit points, hit dice, alignment, ability to communicate, blah, blah, blah. Here's where it gets changed. The target's actions are limited by the beast form's anatomy, and it can't cast spells. The target equipment melds into the new form, and the target can't use any of that equipment while in that form. The target gains a number of temporary hit points equal to the beast form's hit points. So that's changed, right? Because before, it said that you could change them again after you cast a spell. So presumably, let's say you are a challenge rating 4 beast, and you originally had 50 hit points, and then you took 40 hit points of damage, so you have 10 temporary hit points left. Well, if you switch them to another beast that had 40 hit points, then they should get 40 temporary hit points. Not anymore. You just get the temporary hit points when the spell is first cast. The transformation lasts for each target until the target has no temporary hit points or until the target leaves the form as a bonus action. And there is another clarification. I know there was some buzz online that maybe you kept the temporary hit points even after a spell ended. I think usually they were talking about the polymorph spell, but animal shapes work the same way. Now, I've always figured that spell effects end when the spell ends, but nevertheless, saying that they go away when the spell ends does issue a clarification. So that's animal shapes. Then we go to Conjure Elemental. In using a higher level spell slot, subsection, 2d8 is now 1d8. So here's Conjure Elemental, Druid and Wizard spell, 5th level, and this is the part that's changed right here that I've highlighted. So it's using a higher level spell slot. Used to scale by 2d8 per spell slot level. It is now 1d8. So this is a rebalancing. So this isn't a case where they made a mistake in terms of, they did a typo or something like that or got their math wrong. Maybe they got their math wrong when they were guessing how much damage these things would do. So what they've done is they've reduced the scaling when you cast it at a higher level. Probably a good thing. Conjure Elemental wasn't the poster boy of the problems with upcasting, but the poster boy has been dealt with as well. So anyway, Conjure Elementals, not as overpowered with upcasting anymore. Then we go to Conjure Fae, and using the higher level spell slot subsection, 2d12 is now 1d12. So here's Conjure Fae, and once again, we're talking about using a higher level spell slot. Used to say the damage increases by 2d12 for each spell slot level above 6. Now it's 1d12. I have to say, though, Conjure Fae, the base damage within the spell is 3d12 plus your spellcasting ability modifier, which for a 6th level spell is very low. So what I kind of figured when they released this spell is at its base level of 6th, it's not very good. But because the upcasting is so aggressive, maybe if you upcast it to 8th level or something, then it might be a decent spell. However, with the reduced upcasting, now I'm not sure it's good at its base level or upcast. So Conjure Fae, definitely on the weak side. Though I understand why you would want to have the upcasting maybe not be so aggressive, but I wish in addition to that, they had increased, I should say, the base damage of the spell so that it was good to cast at level 6. But they didn't do that. Here's the poster boy, Conjure Minor Elementals. It says, in the using a higher level spell slot subsection, 2d8 is now 1d8. So here's Conjure Minor Elementals, and here is the part that has been changed. And I've been harping on this ever since I got my copy of the Player's Handbook. I know Colby at D4 Deep Dive has been harping on this, and there's been other people harping on it as well. The issue with Conjure Minor Elementals isn't that the spell is too powerful. The issue with Conjure Minor Elementals is that the upcasting is too powerful. So if you cast it at its base 4th level, I think it's a good spell. But as soon as you start casting it with higher level spell slots, it gets out of hand. So reducing that 2d8 to 1d8 really will help. Now, I've looked at the math for Conjure Minor Elementals, and I looked at Spirit Shroud, which gains a d8 for every 2 spell levels. And so I know on this channel I had recommended that as a house rule, you might want to do 1d8 for every 2 spell slot levels above 4. Now, they've gone halfway there with this Errata. So they've gone from 2d8 to 1d8, but it's every spell level. So I'm sure people will be wondering, do I still think it's too powerful with upcasting? I'm not sure yet. I do think it's worth trying out with the new rules. It's not as obviously broken as it was. So I will be certainly trying it out, and I play a lot. And so people will be trying it out a lot with the new rules. So I will keep you informed as I form a more solid opinion on it. But it is definitely a move in the right direction. Then we have Conjure Woodland Beings in the using a higher level spell slot subsection. A level above 5 is now level above 4. Just to show you what they mean. Now, I think this Errata was applied on D&D Beyond quite a while ago, and probably on printings of the Player's Handbook a while ago. But the original printing of the 2024 Player's Handbook said this under using a higher level spell slot. The damage increases by a d8 for each spell slot level above 5. The thing is it is a 4th level spell. So it's odd that it would say for each spell slot level above 5. And I think I know what happened, and I know I've talked to people who also think they know what happened, and that is when they were doing the playtest, they released a version of Conjure Woodland Beings that was 5th level, and I assume probably by mistake. Like, they probably just forgot that it was supposed to be a 4th level spell. So they did an entire 5th level spell version of Conjure Woodland Beings, and they obviously found their mistake and decided to reduce it to 4th level, but they forgot to change the wording down here to 4th level. And frankly, I wish they had also reduced the 5d8 to 4d8, because I think the 5d8 was based on it being a 5th level spell, not being a 4th level spell. That said, this is just a wording error. So it was a typo. I think everybody knew what this was supposed to mean, and I think that's the way people generally played it. It upcasted by a d8 per spell slot level, and we didn't worry about it saying above level 5. But anyway, that's been cleared up, so now it's 100% clear. Very powerful spell, and it has not been rebalanced. To be clear here, all they've done is they've fixed what is obviously, just a miss from going from the playtest version to the official version. Giant Insect. A lot of people noticed this one. So in the hit point entry, 10 for each spell level is now 10 for each spell level above 4. Again, this has been corrected on D&D Beyond for some time now, but they're just officially releasing it as Errata today. Again, this was clearly a misprint. So I'll bring up the Giant Insect spell. Again, this is the old version. This is actually my early release version you see up on your screen right now. And the original said hit points is 30 plus 10 for each spell level. But the thing is that Giant Insect is already a 4th level spell. So that's adding 40 to the 30. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I figured right from the beginning that this was probably just an error in wording. They probably meant 10 for each spell level above 4th. And that has now been cleared up. And Polymorph. I'm not going to worry bringing up Polymorph on the screen because it's the same thing as with animal shapes. In the second paragraph of the spell's description, the following sentence has been added after the first. These temporary hit points vanish if any remain when the spell ends. And again, my assumption has always been that if you are concentrating on a spell and then you stop concentrating on a spell and the spell ends, then the spell effects end along with it. But there was some confusion on that, So they have clarified. And shape change. Shape change also is just like animal shape, so I'm not going to bring it up. The second paragraph of the spell's description has been replaced with the following. When you cast a spell, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to the hit points of the first form in which you shapeshift. So this was the same problem as animal shapes, where you could cast shape change and potentially change forms and go back up to the temporary hit points equal to the new form you selected, which is broken, right? Like, that's obviously broken, and obviously I think it's obvious that's not how it was supposed to work. But now it's clear. It's just the first version you take. So you can change forms afterwards, but you're not going to get any more temporary hit points. And again, these temporary hit points vanish, if any remain when the spell ends. And true polymorph. In the second paragraph of the creature into creature subsection, the second sentence has been replaced with these temporary hit points vanish, if any remain when the spell ends. So the same kind of clarification for true polymorph as for polymorph. And then was there any, the creature stat blocks at the end of the player's handbook, any differences? I know there were formatting differences between the player's handbook and the monster manual. I'm not immediately aware of any statistical changes to the stat blocks, but there probably were. I'm sure those of you who are aware of any changes would let us know down in the comments. But they've all been updated so that they match the monster manual, which they obviously should. And then there's two changes in the rules glossary, and that's going to finish up the player's handbook. The first is to grappling. In the grappling entry, the heading escaping a grapple is now ending a grapple. Also, the following sentence has been added to the end of that subsection. In addition, the grappler can release the target at any time, no action required. So the escaping the grapple, ending a grapple, again, we probably knew what they meant, right? And then the grappler can release the target at any time, no action required. That's actually something that came up in very early on playing the new rules. Is we had somebody in a grapple, and they said, can I release it on my turn or at any time? And we couldn't find anything on it. So now it's been added, so that's good. There's a rule that needed to be there. And then we have the hide action. It says, in the second paragraph, you have the invisible condition is now, you have the invisible condition while hidden. And in the third paragraph, the condition ends on you is now, you stop being hidden. Neither of these things really change the mechanics to the hide action. So if, the stealth is not perfect in D&D, there's a lot of DM rulings that need to happen to make hide work. And that hasn't changed. And I'm not sure how they fix that, but this doesn't do it. So anyway, that is all the changes to the player's handbook. Obviously, the big ones here are the spell changes. A lot of these spell changes rebalance these spells, especially Conjure Elemental, Conjure Fey, Conjure Minor Elementals. Those have had significant rebalancing. And if you thought that animal shapes and shape change refreshed your temporary hit points every time you changed form, then those obviously had an even bigger rebalancing. So we're now going to go to the Dungeon Master's Guide. By the way, we've gone over all the big stuff. This is the small stuff. I'm going to go through it quick. So DM Toolbox, it says running the chase under dashing. The last sentence has been replaced with the following. Participant drops out of the chase if it has 5 exhaustion levels. Creature can move the exhaustion levels again during the chase by finishing a short or long rest. Minor thing. And creating adventures. Treasure hoards. In the third row of the random treasure hoard table, 8d8 times 10,000 is now 8d8 times 1,000. And so that was obviously a misprint, right? And then that's it for the Dungeon Master's Guide. So not much for the Dungeon Master's Guide. Now we're going to go to the Monster Manual. And it's almost all really minor stuff. Ancient Red Dragon, spellcasting once per day is now once per day each. So you would have spellcasting and there would be a list of spells. And this happened with a few different monsters. They'd say once per day, twice per day, but they forgot to say each. So it would indicate that you could cast one of these spells per day rather than you could cast all of these spells once per day. And there's a few different monsters that had that same issue. Ancient White Dragon, Charisma is up to 18. Arcanoloth, Armor Class has gone from 17 to 18. The Balor hit points have gone up by 13, or down by 13, I should say, and 1 fewer hit die. The Carrion Crawler, Paralyzing Tentacles, now call for a Constitution saving throw instead of Dexterity saving throw. The Cloaker, the sentence that begins, while the Cloaker is attached, it makes bite attacks, now attach attacks. I'm not sure why they do that. Cultist Hierophant now has no Mage Armor. Mage Armor has been removed. The Cyclops Sentry, their weapon is no longer called a Great Club, it's called a Stone Club. The Death Knight, spellcasting twice per day is twice per day each. Death Knight Aspirant, spellcasting once per day is now once per day each. Formian, Great Club is now Stone Club. Galabdur, initiative is +2. And they just changed the passive number. They had the passive number wrong before. The Giant Frog has gone from a +4 to hit to +3 to hit. Githyanki Warrior, it's the spellcasting fix. Short bow. So the Goblin Boss for the short bow, obvious printing error, had 80 short range, 230 long range, when a short bow is supposed to be 320 long range, so they fixed that. Green Slod, the spellcasting fix. The Ice Devil used to say blind sight 60 feet unimpeded by magical darkness. Not that blind sight is ever impeded by magical darkness, so that was obviously an error. They've changed it to blind sight 120 feet, and they have gotten rid of the useless unimpeded by magical darkness sentence. The Kraken Fling, large creature is now large or smaller creature. We probably guessed that. Performer Legend, initiative +9 was +10. Maestro +7 was +8. Priest +5 to hit was +4. The Pseudo Dragon, here's the significant change. The final sentence is now, while poison the target also has the unconscious condition, which ends early if the target takes damage or a creature within 5 feet of it uses an action to wake it. If you are playing a Warlock Chain Pact Familiar, just know the Pseudo Dragon just got better. Okay? And Swarm of Lemurs, the dexterity is changed from 7 from 8. The Swarm, large enough for a small creature, is now large enough for a medium creature. And Violet Fungus, initiative -5. 5 passive is now -5, 10 passive. Or sorry, the other way around. Was 10 passive, is now 5 passive. And that is it for the changes to the 3 core books. And I thought I would go over those. Most of them are minor, but a couple of them were pretty impactful and I thought worthy of letting you guys know about. So let me know about what you think. Do you think Conjure Minor Elementals is fine with a D8 per spell level? Are there any changes they didn't make that you figure were obvious that they should have made? Like, one that comes to my mind is they still didn't fix the saddle, which gives you benefit that never applies, ever, according to the rules. That one sticks out to me. There's definitely some rebalancing stuff that I wish had happened. I talked about a couple of them already, like, Conjure Woodland Beings damage should probably be 4d8 instead of 5d8, that kind of thing. Conjure Celestial could have been toned down, right? If you've played with Conjure Celestial at any point since the new rules came out, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's really something. Anyway, let me know your observations about Errata and what should have happened that didn't happen, or what you're glad did happen, or something you're upset that did happen in the Errata. Otherwise, till next time, I'll talk to you on Monday, and I'm going to be getting back into the Monk series. This was an interruption because of this Errata. Okay? So, until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.